Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you all to this very important meeting today, Tuesday, August 7th, 2018, of the City of Portsmouth City Council Chambers. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, we will now have roll call. Please indicate your presence electronically. Six members of the Planning Commission are present.
Commissioners, before you are the minutes of the July 3rd, 2018 public hearing. If there aren't any changes, we are in need of a motion.
Nobody's doing anything. Thompson.
Commissioner Thompson.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes from the previous meeting.
I second that motion.
Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the July 3rd, 2018 public hearing, and you will be voting electronically. The minutes are approved 6-0. Announcements of future meetings and conferences. Please note that our next scheduled work session is Tuesday, September the 4th, 2018 at 12:30 p.m., 6th floor conference room, followed by public hearing at 1:30 p.m., City Council chamber. Items reviewed today will be presented to City Council for action at their September 11 or September 25th, 2018 public hearing, or as otherwise noted. Planning Commission rules limit a speaker up to 5 minutes to speak. We also ask that everyone please silence your cell phones at this time if you have not already done so. Our first public hearing item is Z 18-04, West Norfolk. Richard Barbie requests a rezoning of the property at 4940 West Norfolk Road from high-density urban residential, URH, to general mixed use, GMU, for a real estate office. The property is further described as tax map 721, parcel 3. The comprehensive plan recommends commercial development. Will the applicant or representative for this application please come forward and present your application at this time?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Since this is my first one, I don't know what your protocol is, but thanks for having me. In my eyes, this is fairly simple. A retired military man, 30 years.
Pardon me, Mr. Barbie, could you please just state your name and your address for the record?
My name is Richard Barbie. My address is 805 Live Oak Drive, Chesapeake, Virginia.
Thank you.
That's it?
You can continue.
That was easy. Thank you.
No, you need to continue to present your case.
Like I said, I don't know what the protocol is, so. Do you want me to read the application, which was submitted, or the reason for this is my business, Warrant Realty, is buying this particular facility to open a real estate office. In its current use, the building is not zoned for real estate. We asked for the zoning change so that we may run a real estate business out of this location.
Commissioners, are there any questions?
Thompson.
Commissioner Thompson.
Is it true that you'll be moving from Chesapeake to Portsmouth with your business?
Yes.
Excellent.
Any additional questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item Z-18-04. I do have one, well, Mr. Barber has already spoken. If there is anyone here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward at this time, state your name and your address, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Commissioner Youngblood.
Thank you. I make a motion that we approve item Z-1804 as presented.
The chair is in need of a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve Z-18-04. You will be voting electronically. This item is approved by a vote of 6-0. Our next item, UP-18-05 Midtown, request of the City of Portsmouth to obtain a use permit to erect a 300-foot communications tower for emergency management 911 radio communications at 2017 Frederick Boulevard. The proposed tower will replace the existing communications tower located at the city's Public Works facility. This area is designated on the future land use map in the comprehensive plan as a mixed-use corridor. The property is also identified as tax map 165, parcel 2.1. Will the applicant or representative for this application please come forward and present your application at this time?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Board. For the record, my name is Ronald Guthrie. I'm a project manager for Motorola Solutions, responsible for the implementation of the City of Portsmouth Public Safety radio system. This system will provide public safety communications. We have offices located throughout Virginia, and I'm here today on behalf of the applicant of the City of Portsmouth. In addition, I have the engineering team, Mr. Eric Cole, he's a civil engineer, PE of record, Mr. Jason Espinoza, system engineer for design, and Mike Harper is a radio system consultant on behalf of the City of Portsmouth. Currently, public safety communication relies on single tower infrastructure located on 2017 Frederick Boulevard, built in 1986. The existing infrastructure doesn't meet TIA 222-G, which governs structural integrity for all communication towers. The standards are updated regularly to address increased infrastructure, equipment, and wind loading requirements. The public safety radio system upgrades includes 2 tower sites with locations at Frederick Boulevard, and that's 18-05 and West Norfolk Road 18-06 as part of a comprehensive coverage design for public safety operations. Can we advance into the slides, or is that the only slide you're going to have up? Can we go to the next, to the coverage maps, please? Yeah, that's okay. Okay, there, okay. The slide on the left is the existing coverage with the single site version at Frederick. It's color-coded. What you see in blue is what the coverage exists. This is in-building coverage. Up in the Churchland, as you can see, the current system doesn't provide adequate portable handheld coverage north and west of I-164 and Cedar Lane. So when we're talking about portable radio coverage for fire and EMS and those type of people, this is an example for everyone to see of the portable radio we're talking about. So we use the word round-trip traffic. The lack of coverage is a safety hazard for city personnel and potentially to the citizens they serve. When city personnel cannot properly communicate or coordinate their responses or request backup and additional support, it becomes difficult to deliver the services they are tasked to provide. So I'll take a second and just talk to the 2 charts up here. Chart on the left is the single site at Frederick. There's a red dot on the chart at the left, which will show the Churchland site location. Frederick is where the dot is pointing, and if you move up, there's Churchland. If you go to the second map over here, this is the future design. Once the system is turned on with the 2 tower sites, you can see the area in blue that outlines the City of Portsmouth. But this is a map that shows beyond the actual city of Portsmouth for any interoperability or something to the adjacent cities, counties. Everything in blue is coverage. Any questions for
Commissioners,
18?
are there any questions? Commissioner Youngblood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I understand you correctly, the only reason we're making any change on Frederick is because the existing trellis tower doesn't meet the safety standards or some similar construction standards. Is that correct?
The existing tower is 30-some years old, almost 35 years old. There's some erosion and stuff in the steel, so the tower needs to be replaced.
So
The new standards for wind loading and et cetera, it does not meet.
So the answer is
No.
correct? Okay. What my question was, the only reason you're taking it down is because it doesn't meet the current standards, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The proposed tower would be 300 feet, and as I understand it, that's the same height as the one that's there now, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Would there be any other use on that tower other than our 911 system? In
Not
other
at
words,
this- no.
AT&T wouldn't hang anything on there? Okay.
No.
And the second tower that you talked about is a new tower just to extend the range, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's 300 feet also,
Correct.
and a trellis type?
Identical as the
Okay,
Frederick.
okay.
Yes.
So it wouldn't have guy wires coming out
No.
to the side or anything?
Self-supporting.
Are there any other structures out in the western part of the city that could be used in lieu of a tower?
Not to my knowledge. When looking for a site location, the Churchland site was the best fit that was available.
Do you happen to know how tall that water tower is that's about, I guess, about a quarter mile away?
No, I do not. Unless someone,
I'm just wondering if that was a viable alternative to putting up this tower.
not at the present time, no.
Okay, it doesn't look to me like it's 300 feet tall, so
No.
I,
Correct.
okay. And if I understand, I'm just an artillery officer, I don't know this stuff. If I understand this, in the communications world, taller is always better, correct?
Correct.
Okay, okay. I have no other questions. Thank you, sir.
Any additional questions, Commissioners? Thank you, sir. Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP-18-05. If there's anyone here who did not get an opportunity to register and you would like to address this application, you may come forward, state your name and your address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Commissioners, we will now be entertaining a motion on UP 18-05. Commissioner Thaxton?
I'd like to make a motion to accept UP-1805 with conditions.
Is there a second? Commissioner Thompson?
I'll second that.
Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve UP-18-05 with conditions. You may vote electronically. This item is approved, 6-0. Our next item, UP-18-06, Churchland. Request of the City of Portsmouth to obtain a use permit to erect a new 300-foot communications tower for emergency management 911 radio communications at 0 West Norfolk Road, approximately 0.35 miles east of Cedar Lane. The proposed tower is intended 0.35 miles, okay, east of Cedar Lane. The proposed tower is intended to improve 911 radio service in the Churchland area. This area is designated on the future land use map in the comprehensive plan for transportation. The property is also identified as tax map 722, parcel 3. Will the applicant or representative for this application please come forward and present your application at this time?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the planning. For the record, my name is Ronald Guthrie. I'm the project manager for Motorola Solutions for the implementation of the City of Portsmouth Public Safety Radio System. The system is to provide public safety communications. We have offices located throughout Virginia. I'm here today on behalf of the applicant, the City of Portsmouth. I'm not going to redo the other part, but it's all the same. This is the second site. We looked at the map just a minute ago. It requires the Churchland site. It's where you have poor coverage today, no in-building coverage.
Commissioners, any additional questions for Mr. Guthrie? Commissioner Thompson?
This site is a lot different than the other site in that it is at a property that's going to be at the end of our Rails to Trails program, at the end of it, and I see that there's some new roads constructed. We discussed this in the work session, and I just wanted to make sure that if there is a new road cut, which that looks like, and if it's going to be crossing our trail, that all that is considered and will not be an impact to our project, to that project. And that's a condition that I would like to have if we need to impose that on recommendation.
When we get to the motion, Commissioner, you have a right to include that as a condition. Commissioner Youngblood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got a question for Mr. Hartley. Have you gotten any written communication from any of the neighbors about this?
The only individual that I was spoken to is a gentleman that indicated he lived 3 doors west of, or 3 houses west of the site. And he really came in to inquire about what the nature of the use permit request was, but made no comment either for or against the application. He was just inquiring for information about the application itself.
Thank you. So there was no public outcry against this, correct?
We have not heard any, either by email, telephone, or in person.
Good. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to address this application? I think we're at. Okay.
The Commissioner Thompson, could you
Sorry.
could you give me that condition again that you suggested?
I would
So
just
that
like
the-
to make sure that, as a condition of approval, that the tower project does not impact the trailhead, which is going to be right at the end of one of the trail, and that all consideration is given to access of that trail when this site design is being prepared.
Commissioners, any objection to that condition? There being none, the chair is in need of a motion of 18.06 with conditions. Commissioner Thompson?
I would like to make a motion that we approve 18-06 with the condition.
Is there a second? Commissioner Thaxton?
A second.
Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve UP-18-06 with conditions. You may vote electronically. This item is approved 6-0. Our next item, UP-18-07, downtown. Judd B. Middleton requests a use permit at 701 Court Street for an entertainment establishment. The property is currently zoned downtown D1 T5. The property is further described as tax map 7, parcel 101. The comprehensive plan recommends mixed-use downtown development. Will the applicant or representative for this application please come forward and present your application at this time?
Good afternoon. Judd Mendelson, 1507 Berwyn Drive, Chesapeake, Virginia. I want to thank the Commission for the opportunity to speak. Although I understand we are most likely deferring a vote, I still would like to take this opportunity to address the Commission. I have some materials that I'd like to hand out, if I can pass them to the recording secretary, please. This information would supplement the information already provided in the use permit itself. So we have a use permit pending before this commission to establish the Greyhound at Old Town at 701 Court Street. I want to introduce myself, give you the invitation to call us if you have any questions. If you'd like any more information, we'd be glad to interface with any members of the commission, provide any clarification for any questions that you have. I'm one of three partners. If I can just briefly recognize my other partners and ask them to stand. Myself, Judd Mendelson, Sarah Mendelson, and Russell Weitzner. I have three things that I want to talk about before I talk about the positive impact that I think the Greyhound at Old Town is going to bring to Portsmouth. The first thing that I want to say is that we have strong ties to the city of Portsmouth, and we care about the city of Portsmouth. I was raised in Sterling Point. I went to Churchland High School. I was a student council president. I have lived in Old Town. I've had a law practice in Old Town, and I know how special Old Town is. I'm a graduate of the Van Lefko Leadership Program, and in my law practice today, I would say the majority of my clients are Portsmouth residents. Sarah Mendelson has worked for the Portsmouth Community Services Board. She's a sustaining member of the Portsmouth Service League, and she's a former board member of the Her Shelter. Russell Weitzner is a resident of Virginia Beach. We don't hold that against him, but we're here to say that we have strong ties to this community and we care about this community. The second thing that I want to say is that we're aware, very aware, of the history of the Mansion and David's nightclub in downtown Portsmouth, and we are not a DJ nightclub. We are going to be a small music venue that focuses on bringing professional musicians to downtown Portsmouth. The last thing that I want to say talks about the location of this proposed venue. We looked at the Crocken's building, we looked at the Sports Hall of Fame. Both of those buildings are just way too large for our footprint. The economics wouldn't work out at those locations. We also looked further west down High Street, and what we felt about locations further west down High Street is that when we run an event, we would negatively impact our restaurants and retail with the number of attendees that we bring. And that's one of the reasons we focused on 701 Court Street, because it's across the street from a municipal parking garage and down the street from several other municipal parking options. Now let me briefly talk about the benefits, the positives that I see in bringing this music venue to Old Town Portsmouth. First of all, Old Town is a great location for a music venue. It's a beautiful, historic, and walkable city. It's close proximity to restaurants and retail shops, and it has great infrastructure for parking and transportation, being close to the downtown tunnel, close to the highway system, close to the ferry to Norfolk. We think all of these are key elements for success. Small music venues bring culture and art to a city. They're destination event centers that don't require public funding. They attract young professionals and the creative class to spend their entertainment dollars in the city. We believe this venue will be one more reason for Greater Hampton Roads to visit Old Town. We're self-funded. We believe we're going to invest approximately $1.5 million into this project. At full capacity, the venue would hold 500 to 600 people. The average show would have half that amount, 250 to 300 people coming per show. Over the course of a year, once we fully mature, we expect to bring 43,000 people to Old Town over the course of a year. And we believe that this is going to have tremendous benefits for Portsmouth. We believe it's going to continue the momentum that's currently going, that Old Town is currently experiencing. We believe it's going to strengthen our restaurants and our retail shops, and we believe it's going to attract young professionals to locate in the city. In addition, one of the plans for the venue would be to have local restaurants be guest chefs, or local breweries and distilleries do tap takeovers, and so we intend to partner with our local restaurants and breweries and distilleries. Collectively, we have over 33 years of promoting events. Last year, our event company hosted over 85,000 people at our events. So we bring a pretty professional background into managing events and managing venues. We think the Greyhound has great ingress and egress. It's across the street from a parking garage. It's close to other parking options. The building has a lot of character. And our plan is to bring touring acts, professional musicians on tour to the city of Portsmouth. In the packet that I've given you, our target market would be young professionals aged 25 to 65. And we did some Facebook promotion of the venue. I've included the Facebook results in the packets that you have there. And those results support that strategy, that the major interest we received in this venue when we promoted it was from people 25 and up. 21 through 25 represented less than 4% of the interest we received. In addition to bringing touring acts, we'll also work hard to foster our local musicians, and we've already had a number of those musicians reach out to us. Our mission is to be a cultural and community asset to the city of Portsmouth. We think we have a lot to offer, and we're excited to be here, and we hope we get your approval.
Commissioners, are there any additional questions for Mr. Mendelson? Commissioner Thompson?
I was just wondering if there was any plans to do any sound attenuation, or are you planning to try to limit the noise that might creep out from any type of music acts?
Well, the building's made out of masonry block with a brick veneer. That has a sound suppression rating somewhere near 50. So what that means is that standing outside of the venue with regard to the walls, you ought to be able to hear the music at a conversational level or less. Me speaking right now on this microphone, without this microphone, I'm probably at 65 decibels. So we anticipate being below that level when you're standing outside the venue. To accomplish that, we will have to add some sort of internal roofing system.
Commissioner Youngblood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir, have you reached out to the Old Town South Civic League to talk to them? Because they're going to be some of your closest neighbors.
Yes, sir. We have had communications with Old Town South. We've had communications with Old Town Civic League. We've had communications with the Portsmouth Portsmouth Partnership, and we've had communications with Old Town Business Association. I believe by the time we're back before you, we will have been before all of those organizations. At this point, with the exception of Old Town South, we have spoken face-to-face with officers of those, well, we have spoken face-to-face or over the phone with officers of those organizations. With Old Town South, I think we have a meeting pending, but it's been email communication back and forth.
Okay. Second question, you mentioned your 33 years experience promoting. Specifically, what sort of promotional activities have you been involved in? What do you promote?
We promote consumer trade shows. We've been a tenant of the Hampton Roads Convention Center since 1985. And we promote approximately 5 events a year in that civic center, and then we promote other consumer trade shows at the Virginia Beach Convention Center, the Fredericksburg Expo Center, Meadow Event Park in Richmond, and a few smaller other facilities as well.
But not entertainment facilities per se?
Not entertainment facilities per se, but I think that there's a lot of human capital and professional experience that translates over. We're pretty adept at coordinating services, managing crowd flow, making sure the crowd has what they need to be happy, anticipating and dealing with crowd surge. These are all things that we have professional experience with, not in an entertainment venue setting, but in a civic arena setting.
Given your lack of experience in the entertainment side of it, since that's really the focus of what we're talking about here, how do you anticipate lining up the entertainment for your venue? In other words, are you going to have somebody managing that for you, somebody subcontracting that?
I think it's early to give you a definitive answer to that. I can tell you we've had communications with Whisper Concerts. We've had communications, and by communications I mean meetings and phone conferences with other music promoters, the promoter of the Lava Festival at the Suffolk Regional Airport, Whisper Concerts. We've spoken briefly before we identified this particular project with More Music. I believe they're involved currently with your amphitheater. So what I would anticipate is kind of a mixed menu where some events we work in conjunction with a booking agent like Whisper Concert or More Music, or we work in conjunction with another promoter who is a up-and-running professional promoter who has promoted events that we've been with, that we vetted, as well as doing some in-house promotion through, there are several professional organizations that you can join where you obtain contact information for booking agents and talent agents.
The reason I'm dwelling on that is that I still bear the strain of having dealt with Mansion, and I would be very, very concerned if your business morphed into something where you were subcontracting out to a DJ or someone like that, or renting out your facility like we had at Mansion,
right,
where they would claim, well, hey, it's not our fault that all this stuff is going to hell in a handbasket, but it's this contractor's fault.
Well, sure. First of all, we bear ultimate responsibility for what happens in our venue, so we understand that. 2, we're investing a tremendous amount of capital in this project, and we understand the quickest way to lose that capital is to follow the Mansion recipe. 3, we spoke to people involved with the Portsmouth Women's Club, and they said, we're so busy at the Portsmouth Women's Club, we have no place to hold rehearsal dinners. So if we had a referral from an existing other facility that could not accommodate a legitimized contract, that's certainly a piece of business we would consider. But I can tell you, we won't be renting out our facility to someone else who will then be selling tickets and having an event that we don't have control over. So I understand the concern there that this becomes a place for unknown members of the community to rent out from us and then essentially promote something within our structure, and that won't happen. But, and again, we're not going to be a DJ nightclub. The only reason I hesitate there is, just as an example, there's a fairly popular professional artist or group called the Chainsmokers. They are essentially DJs, but they take music and they resample it and they reconstitute it and they make their own professional recording out of it. Technically, I guess that would be a DJ, but so it's a little complicated, but to say on Friday night we're going to have a DJ and there's going to be a $5 cover and come dance, that's not what we're going to do.
Would you go along with making that a condition of your use permit?
A carefully crafted condition, I would. I'm a little afraid that the language would be broad, that it would prohibit something like having a DJ at a rehearsal dinner. There are, you know, I guess as I've thought about it, I'm certainly happy to provide a limitation on that activity so that you all have certainty that it does not become a nightclub where you know, every week we have DJs coming in. But I think if we just absolutely said no DJs, there would be some positive business that we would be unable to accommodate. You know, if that becomes a sticking point for everybody, it's not a major part of our business plan. And I'm sure we can come up with language that satisfies everybody. But we're not here to become anything other than a music venue that brings in professional touring musicians and professional music acts.
Right. One last thing. I don't want to monopolize the afternoon. I saw that there was some reference to ABC on and off, and I would certainly hope that you would not be making that part of your business plan. I understand alcohol on the premises,
Yeah.
but I would be deathly afraid of a venue like that where you could go to the place, enjoy the music, and then on your way out, grab a couple six-packs for the drive home.
I understand that. I can guarantee you that for a ticketed concert, there will be nothing leaving the facility. People's hands will be empty. I think the reason our ABC consultant recommended ABC off was he said, you know, you're going to be a restaurant. You may morph into more of a restaurant than you plan to at this time. The purpose of ABC off is that if you serve dinner and you sell a bottle of wine and an expensive bottle of wine, your patron can take the wine home with you. Again, we will not be selling alcohol off premises on events where we're selling tickets open to the public to come.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Thompson?
I just have a couple more things. It looks like you are closing off where the overhead doors are on the north side of the building. Where you're closing off the overhead doors.
The garage roll-up
Yes.
doors, those will be converted into pedestrian doors, glass doors.
Yes, I see that. So I've been past a lot of venues before, and when the door opens, the sound comes out. And so that would be a concern that I would have is sound traveling from the concert hall through the open doors that are going to be open, connecting those two areas, and then straight out if those doors were to be propped open for ventilation or for whatever reason. So it's just something I wanted to throw out there.
Right. So,
And then to comment, what time are y'all going to stop having music?
so let me address the hours of operation second and address the first concern, which is the doors to the outside. So in this supplemental plan that I gave you, right after the excerpts from the website, there is a floor plan.
Yes, I'm looking at that.
Okay, and so the area labeled the stage, that's Court Street. The current roll-up doors are to the left of the page facing County Street. You'll see there's a bar, and then behind the bar is a concert hall.
Correct.
That concert hall is the original concourse for the Greyhound bus station. Those doors that are pictured there are existing. They're very large, heavy glass doors. Those doors will be manned during a concert, so as someone comes in and out, they'll get shut by a staff member. And then, you know, the doors to the outside will be spring activated, so they'll close as someone goes in and out. So the sound's going to have to travel out of the concert hall, into the restaurant space, and then out to the street. We've had some sound studies done, and by the time it gets to the street, for those limited instances, it's going to have minimal impact.
Will people be able to come into the restaurant space without having a concert ticket?
No, not on a ticketed event, because of the capacity of the building, So if we ran something that was not a ticketed event, like a daytime Father's Day bluegrass concert or something like that, then people would be able to maybe come without purchasing a ticket. But for a nighttime touring act where we're charging admission, no one will get past the front doors without having pre-purchased a ticket.
Thank you.
Commissioners, are there any additional questions for Mr. Middleton? Thank you, sir.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP-18-07. If there's anyone here who would like to address this application, you may come forward at this time, state your name and your address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak.
Good afternoon, members of the commission. My name is Daniel Aston. I am a real estate developer. I'm the managing principal of Sterling King Apartments, located directly across the street. It's 113 units, apartment units we just built, cost of over $15 million. It houses approximately 170 people. I did not come here prepared to give a big statement because my understanding it's going to be deferred. But after this presentation, I felt I needed to offer some thoughts on to leave you with today. Old Town, South Old Town are residential areas in their essence. If you look at a map of them, there's a lot of people that live downtown in their neighborhoods. And this is the worst idea I've ever heard for our neighborhoods. I officed across from Brody's, which became the mansion. It was awful. So on July 30th, I sent a very detailed letter, which I hope you're in receipt of, to Mr. John Hartley and the Planning Commission. I've had a meeting with Mr. Mendelson, and he would have you believe this is going to be a small venue. So I want you to think about this. 550 people possible. He said maybe half. 3 to 4 times a week, leaving at 2 o'clock in the morning. Do you want to live across the street for that? Now he talks about he's going to mitigate the sound somehow. So the conversation, and we've had this conversation internally, if I'm talking to you across from your desk, it is probably about a 75 decibel conversation. The city code requires that the sound can't be over 75 decibels when it leaves the property, right? So when somebody opens the door, maybe he can control that. He has somebody shuts it immediately. But how do you control 300, 500, 550 cars leaving our city at 2 o'clock? If you want to ensure that you destroy the residential character of this city and the emphasis to bring more people to live here, this is how you do it. There's nothing accretive to the residential base of the city of Portsmouth and the people that live here, the people that have invested here, the people who have chosen to make this their home by this use. This is solely a business that will exploit the benefits of Old Town and its great location so they can bring people here, and there might be some overflow restaurant business, but I guarantee you the offset of people that leave, that people will I already have residents coming to me that say they're concerned about it. And I have built in my career here in Portsmouth over $100 million worth of properties. I've built over 700 housing units in downtown solely with the intent of trying to restore a downtown vibrant community where people can live, their children can live, where people are safe and they have quality housing, and to serve the people that serve our nation. And this goes directly against that. There's nothing small about this venue. Do not think this is 3 people sitting around strumming on a guitar. This is 550 people. Do you want to live across the street from that? Parking. He would suggest parking's not an issue because he's across the street from a city parking lot whose future is unknown, but it is known that it is structurally deficient and will be demolished. Where are those cars going to go? I guarantee you, they're going to go on every street. They're going to go on our parking lots. When we built our apartments, the city code and the state code remains 0 parking required. So that's in jeopardy right now for the residents to live there, for people that depend on street parking and people that depend on the urban parking the city offers. And the lot's in jeopardy today. What happens when you flood it and flood the streets? Once again, people will choose to live elsewhere. This is a small investment that puts a major area at jeopardy. Open till 2 p.m., 4 nights a week. Think about that. Once again, put it in your own context. Do you want to live across the street from that? Commissioner Youngblood asked about the experience. The one thing I didn't hear was what they actually do. They are promoters for gun and knife shows. There's no problem with that. I'm just not sure how it relates to the music business. You know, selling gun and knives on a Saturday afternoon is not the same as crowd control. We met with the applicant, asked about crowd control, and they assured us there'd be security. Well, I've done this all my life, built apartments, and what he means by security is he's going to put security on his property. But when we had our offices across from the Brudies, the mansion, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, we'd wake up, there's beer bottles, there's all kinds of paraphernalia that you don't want to touch. Your flowers are ruined, there's trash, you know. Well, I couldn't call the owners of the mansion and say, can you send somebody over here to fix my flowers? It doesn't happen. So security stops at their property line. So what's the cost to the city of Portsmouth? What's the cost to us as people that have invested $15 million across the street compared to $1 million? And
Sir,
we brought people
sir,
back
you have 30 seconds.
Okay. I've made my points. It's noise, it's traffic, it's crime. It's, you know, we have crime problems already in downtown. We're trying to bring back a vibrant community of residents. This does not help that process. It damages it. It sends a strong signal to the world that we don't want people to live here. It is not accretive to what makes Portsmouth a great downtown area.
Thank you, Mr. Aston. Is there anyone else who would like to address this application? You may come forward. Okay, appearing to be none. Mr. Chairman, we are in need of a motion.
The public hearing will remain open until our September 4th meeting. The chair is in need of a motion to defer the application until September 4th of 2018. Commissioner Thompson.
I'd like to make a motion to defer the voting on this until September 4th.
Is there a second? Commissioner Youngblood. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to defer UP-18-07. You may vote electronically. This item will be deferred by a vote of 6-0.
Commissioners, we have one other item that we need to take up this afternoon. The chair is in need of a motion to direct staff to prepare amendments to the zoning ordinance that address real estate office use in the historic limited office district and related amendments necessary to accomplish these tasks. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that to direct the staff to prepare amendments to the zoning ordinance that addresses the real estate office use in the HLO, Historic Limited Office District, and related amendments necessary to accomplish this task.
Thank you. The chair is in need of a second. Commissioner Thompson.
Thanks.
Commissioner Thaxton?
A second.
That's what happens when you don't have your glasses, right? Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, we'll be having a roll call vote on this particular item. As I call your name, would you please answer yes or no? Commissioner Williams?
Yes?
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Youngblood? Yes. Commissioner Hoffler?
Yes.
Commissioner Thaxton? Yes. Commissioner Rex?
Yes.
Okay, this item is approved for our zoning ordinance by a vote of 6-0.
Madam Secretary, I believe that concludes our agenda for today. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Commissioners, will there be any further business? Mr. Baldwin, is there anything further?
No, Mr. Chairman, there's not.
Hearing none, this meeting is now adjourned.